Hey YouTube, this is David back again with another video. Welcome back to the Red, Gold, and Blue Nation Movies channel. First things first, spoilers. Yes, I say again, spoilers. If you have not seen Avengers Endgame, please don't listen to this video. I'm not in the business of ruining movies for people, and if there's any chance at all that a movie could be ruined for you because of a plot point or a major event in a film being discovered or learned before the proper time, before you actually see the movie, then please don't risk it, because this is going to be a rambling and very, discombobulated and barely coherent rambling review / rant. So please, if you're afraid I might spoil the movie, which I probably will because I'm just going to tell everything, come back and listen to this video later after you've seen the movie, because I don't want to spoil it for you. So spoilers, you have been warned. I'm going to talk all about the movie that I remember seeing yesterday at the AMC, formerly known as the Winsong 16. That's Winsong 16 in Mobile, Alabama, where me and my family almost always go to see movies at the theater when we go to the movie theater, except for Hollywood theaters, Regal Cinemas in Mobile. But that rarely happens, because we buy that bucket, the yearly bucket where you can get major discounts on your popcorn when you go to the movie theaters. Anyway, I digress. Here goes. I went to see this film, and I was excited to go see Avengers Endgame because it's the great big movie, the big climactic ending to this over a decade-long series of Marvel films. And I've always been attracted to this spectacle. Even though as a kid, I was more into X-Men comics for what comic books I did collect. I had a few of other things, but almost no Avengers, almost none. And yet, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching these movies, especially at the movie theater, even though we own a few of them on DVD. So yeah, the X-Men movies actually kind of disappointed me, especially after the second one back in 2002 or 3. But anyway, I digress again. It's the big budget stuff. It's these big epic films that makes it, just in my personal opinion, worthwhile seeing at least once at the movie theater, even though sometimes I do regret seeing the stuff after the fact, but that's a case-by-case basis. Anyways, I'm just going to give an honest, my thoughts, amateur review of this film because I want to. I was conflicted about certain parts of it that I'll get to as I go here, and this is going to be a nice long video because I just want to say everything and give my thoughts, but also just get some stuff off my chest, because there was something in this film that just, it went beyond me not enjoying the movie because of it, but it actually disturbed me, something that happened in this film. But I'll get to that. First things first, you know what, I'm not even going to do that. This is not scripted. I didn't write notes down. This is just going to be a completely off the top of my head, from the bottom of my heart, honest thoughts and reactions. I've had a day to think over a few things that I was kind of mixed up about. And again, it's because it's this particular movie, this big epic conclusion movie, right? I don't do this about every movie I watch. But this has been a big pop culture phenomenon for over a decade, like I said. The Avengers have become world famous, at least for the cinematic universe, which obviously does have some difference from the comic books. But then again, I wouldn't really know the details of that since I wasn't real big into the comic books, even though just a couple all locked away in the shed now, where mold is probably taken over. Anyways, we pick up in the beginning of this film with Tony Stark. He's floating in space because of the fight with the evil, menacing villain Thanos, who's got all of the Infinity Stones, snapped his fingers, and made half of every living creature, or half the living creatures in the universe disappear. He is with Nebula, the only other person around him who didn't vanish away like into ash or go poof or whatever that special effect is as they slowly dissolve off of the screen. Just disappear away in sad oblivion. Totally random, Thanos said. But even then, that's kind of a complaint that I have about the Infinity War movies, Infinity War and Endgame, because, again, I don't know the comics, but it just so happens that I bought this novelized, it was an audio CD, 6 CDs, took like 6 hours to listen to the thing when I was doing my over-the-road trucking over the past couple of years. The story is called Thanos, Death Sentence. And in this story, Thanos, literally the story opens up with Thanos about to kill Thor using the Infinity Gauntlet. And literally that's like the first line in the story. Thor was the first of our heroes to die or something like that, and with a shout of pain and like a lightning bolt or whatever in space, like Thanos like vaporizes Thor, and then this eerie silence, and then this menacing gut laugh that really had me hooked to this story. Again, I didn't read the novel or anything. I'm listening to these audio CDs that I picked up in a truck stop when I was doing my over-the-road trucking. I say when I was doing my over-the-road trucking because now I got a local job and I'm much happier with it, being able to be home more. Anyway, I got a whole big shopping bag full of those CDs and audiobooks that I bought when I was over the road to help me keep my mind going as I was driving the 18-wheeler all over the country. Anyways, in that story, Thanos, he isn't just, and this all happens at the very beginning. I won't tell you that whole story because I'm here to talk about this movie I just saw, Endgame, and not that. But I want to tell you this: he makes half of everything, half of the universe, and I think, again, I don't know the comics, but I think that's how the story went. How he made half of everything, all living things, but also planets and moons and solar systems. And I just thought to myself, how epic that would have been to depict that in these movies, but they didn't do it. They went with the half of every living thing idea, which that's awful enough, but I'm just talking about as far as how, again, epic and just surreal, how huge that could have been, and especially to try and actually show it. I don't know how you would even do that, but it would have been great. But instead, it was all about balance and this weird midway point of, like he talked about Titan, how there are too many mouths to feed, but it would be dispassionate, random. He wouldn't choose the particular people he wanted dead. He would just kill half of every living thing, which he did. But again, it seemed like kind of a missed opportunity to me, that he wanted half of everything gone in that story, whereas in these films, it was half of every living thing, to bring balance or whatever. Interesting, for sure, yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to add that. Tony Stark is playing paper football with Nebula at the beginning of this film, after the little thing that you see in the trailer where he's leaving Pepper Potts, his wife. Actually, I don't know if they're married yet. Whatever. At that point in the movie, because they do this thing where it's like 5 years later. How in the world is Tony Stark rescued from his plight, where he leaves the farewell message, if I die because we're running out of air, or I am because Nebula doesn't breathe? There's all this little humor. He calls her the Blue Meanie or something like that. But anyways, how does he get saved? The movie I didn't watch, Captain Mannequin, yes, and I'm stealing that from another YouTuber. Captain Marvel. Marvelous. You look marvelous. I can't think of where I got that from, that one. But anyways, she can just slip around the universe like it's nothing. Again, I didn't watch that movie because it actually looked lame because of the way they had the actress, Brie Larson or whatever the lady's name is, and all of her anti-white male tweets and all those stupid political controversy. It just turned me off, and that's why I didn't want to watch that movie, even though it's still out, or it was yesterday, Saturday, when we saw Endgame, but whatever. I just don't care for it. I don't care for her. She literally Superman's, carries the ship all the way to Earth. Where there's Captain America and War Machine and, was it Brody? Yeah. Scarlet, not Scarlet, Black Widow. I want to get their names mixed up for whatever reason. And it's such a weird thing how Tony was at death's door, and then he's emotional when he sees Captain. You're like, what? He's kind of breaking down. What is he after? Then when he says, he's always half crying when he says, "I lost a kid," and you realize he's talking about Spider-Man, the young Peter Parker. And so that's one of many tear-jerking moments in this movie that just kind of hit me in the chest and got me going, But all of a sudden, he's angry about how Captain America wasn't there for him, and how he was right, Tony was right, how we needed a suit of armor around the whole world, with all these allusions back to Ultron and stuff. And you just wonder about his mental state. Then he collapses. And then it's 5 years later, and it's all this Left Behind sort of junk with people trying to move on, and there's Captain America literally leading a support group like he's Anthony Mackie was doing, Falcon in Winter Soldier, being a life coach or whatever junk. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the Russo brothers themselves who are in the movie. He's the guy talking about how he just went on a date. And then as he keeps talking, you realize it's he. And I'm not saying the laughter, no, it's a he's dating. As in homosexual propaganda stuff. And you're just thinking, or I am, why in the world, why is this in the movie? What is this? I cried such and such, and then he cried before dessert on the date we went on. I'm thinking to myself, really? Really? Why? Why is this in this movie? There's already enough stuff like that all up in this movie. Not as in your face as that one, but there's this kid cursing, and it's Iron Man's daughter, Tony Stark's daughter, who's cussing because he had this SHIT moment, almost instead of saying Eureka or something like that, when he realized he's cracked the code or the mathematical algorithm or whatever, proof for problem for the time travel dilemma. Because yes, there's time travel in this film, and I tell you what, it's what irks me that they went that route in this movie. However else they would have done it, I don't know. You just would have had to come up with some really creative writing. As it is, I really feel, I think, in terms of them having taken this easy way out. I really do, as far as this last installment. And I've been thinking that maybe, that it's just too much. I don't know who could have written a time travel script, a time travel story, but I'd like to think somebody out there has the talent to do it. But because this movie, and again, I made the mistake, I wasn't looking it up online deliberately, I was just looking for some stuff, reading up on the film, box office results, is the film doing well a few days ago, and I happened to stumble upon a little bit of a spoiler. I learned about how there was going to be time travel. Or maybe it was how an Endgame should have ended YouTube cartoon from how it should have ended. I don't know what it was, but something led me to realize, oh great, they're just going to be going back through time in an actual time machine that they create in this movie, this story, this Marvel Cinematic Universe that already has, as one of the Infinity Stones, a time stone. Granted, Thanos has it, and he used it at the end of Infinity War to go back in time like it was nothing at all. to outflank the Avengers when they had destroyed the thing, whichever Infinity Stone that was that Vision has, who, unfortunately, Vision isn't even in the movie. He and, of course, Quicksilver is not coming back, Maximoff, and somebody else who I had thought of, who they just weren't able to come back into this universe for whatever reason. It just irked me. It kind of ticked me off. I'm like, oh, great. That's what we're going to do in this movie? Time travel? It just seems... Time travel is always convoluted, but it like adds insult to injury in this film, and as much as they actually, at 2 or 3 different points, whether it's Tony and Captain America, Rogers, arguing about how it's impossible, how it's not, Ant-Man and them arguing about how it's possible or how it's not, and then later the Hulk and the grand, whatever that lady is, from the bald lady from Doctor Strange, who dies in that timeline, who willingly gives over the time stone when Hulk, or Bruce Banner rather, since she's separated them with her touch of death, whatever that maneuver, where she socks somebody in the chest and it separates their spirit or whatever from their body, and it's temporal, whatever. She says, you leave got the most important thing. You wouldn't be able to, and the truth is, if I ever do watch the movie again, because it doesn't have a lot of rewatchability in my mind, I'd like to see these films at the theater, because it's like I never forget them. When I see it in the dark, on the big screen, I love it. I love the popcorn and Coke and being with my family and just the experience of going to the movies. And yet, I would have to watch the movie again just to figure out what Bruce Banner and them were talking about how actually it could work, and it will work, this time machine thing. But it's just so convoluted. They literally revisit it 2 times, so that you're so confused, or at least I was, that you're already dealing with the talking raccoon, and with Titans, and super soldiers, and the god of thunder and lightning, and all this other stuff. You've suspended your logical reasoning for the sake of watching this superhero movie and being entertained. So it really irked me that they went into detail with yes, our time machine will work, and our plan to go back to all of these different times throughout these Marvel movies where we encountered and dealt directly with the Infinity Stones will work also, to the point to where they even add insult to injury, knocking other films. Ant-Man literally says, so Back to the Future was a bunch of bull, S-H-I-T, and you're expected to chuckle, you're expected to laugh, but at the same time it's like, sigh. At least he had one of the better moments in the film, actually it starts off horrible. A rat, I kid you not, a rat literally is what the explanation is for how Ant-Man escapes the quantum realm. For him it's only been 5 hours, and yet in real life, or in the regular world, it's been 5 years. Interesting, for sure, but at the same time it's like, a rat is walking over this dusty, rusted out console, keyboard, control panel, whatever thing for the Van's time machine or quantum shrinker, whatever, from Ant-Man 2. Literally, a rat happens to walk over, the weight of the rat presses a couple buttons, and that's what spits Ant-Man out of the quantum realm. And I'm thinking to myself, I know what's about to happen. Something's being activated, and then boom, there's Ant-Man. I'm like, oh man, that was so lazy and horrible. And it's one of the cheap tricks of the film, how you're instantly taken away from that with him being so disheveled and out of it. And why am I in a garage? Where is everybody? What's happened to this world? Why are people so cast down in their eyes and they seem miserable? What's happened? He asks the kid riding by on his bicycle, "Hey kid, what happened here?" Because all these cars are up on blocks and stripped out and stuff on a street that apparently for him was very much working and alive just a few hours before in his existence. But the kid just kind of looks at him like with an empty stare, wondering why I would ask such a thing, and then he ignores him and goes on his bicycle. And then they got this place that looks like the Vietnam War Memorial, all these memorials with people's names etched into them, and he's freaking out saying no, like he's Shia LaBeouf from Transformers, looking for the names of Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer's character from Ant-Man 2 and the Wasp. I forget everybody's name. Even his, I'm just calling him Ant-Man, played by Paul Rudd, who I liked Ant-Man 2 even better. I doubt there'll be any more Ant-Man movies. But anyway, moving on. He realizes it's like they've gone too. But he finds his daughter, and she's 5 years older, and my mom was bawling at this point. She was bawling, literally, as much as she cried at the other 2 or 3 points in this movie. And it's heartwarming when he says, "You're so big," and they hug, because she recognizes her dad. He barely recognizes her, because again, for him in the quantum realm, it's only been 5 hours, but for everybody else, 5 years. It's such a thing. But especially looking back now, it seems so cheap. It really does. Like, you've heard of jump scares and scary video games or scary movies, where this seemed like kind of a emotional equivalent of that. Like I can't even explain it. Just a way to get you going. And the movie is 3 hours long. It's over 3 hours. And some of this stuff, looking back, could have been cut out. I had to pee twice. I missed a couple of minutes of the movie right when they first get into their time machine contraption that they build, when Tony Stark, who reluctantly didn't want in on the stuff because he had finally moved on with his life the way everybody was trying to move on except Captain America and Black Widow were having a hard time moving on, because, and as the film opened up, it was Hawkeye losing his family, poof, out of nowhere. He lives that way out in the country, and it was such an eerie thing for him to experience, no doubt. He's teaching his daughter how to archery like him, how to shoot that bow and arrow. It's a family picnic outside their house, and then all of a sudden, silence. He's all alone, and that was one of the really good parts of the movie, as far as you're like, they're gone. His family just suddenly gone. And what happens with him in the film is he becomes a vigilante. The revenge he can't take out on Thanos because Thanos is out of his reach, he takes out on every bad guy in the world, literally Hawkeye, and apparently leaving a bloody mess behind him, as War Machine tells Black Widow when he's updating her on his search for Barton, Hawkeye, that he just took out a bunch of cartel guys in South America or Mexico or whatever. And now he's going around killing all these gangsters and bad guys and drug people and murderers and stuff, just because it's like, if my family couldn't live, if nobody else could live because of what happened, you're not going to live either. That's his basic philosophy, literally. There's this Japanese gangster guy that he's having a samurai sword fight right in the middle of the rain, and the guy's like, literally asking him, "Why are you doing this? We never hurt you." Is like, everybody else got Thanos, you're going to get me. And he kills him. He slices his throat in the middle of the street. It's like, Hawkeye's become hardcore. He's totally let himself go. He's become a killer. just hunting down people. You're like, man. But I'll go ahead and say right now, his arc, as far as his character, where he starts off and where he ends up in all these movies, and that of Tony Stark are really the best stories in this movie as far as I'm concerned. Especially, I'll say Tony Stark, Iron Man, because he has started to annoy me so much. From Iron Man, parts of Iron Man 2, but especially Iron Man 3, all the way until Infinity War, when all of a sudden he seemed like a whole other person again, and he reluctantly went off and did what he felt compelled to do, getting on that spaceship and stuff, and he seemed to be making some sound decisions, not telling a terrorist exactly where he lives and where his love interest lives in Iron Man 3, not creating Ultron, and Ultron threatening the whole world and killing Maximoff and all this stuff, and really messing with people because of his lack of foresight and his arrogance. I really liked Iron Man in this movie, and again, it's bittersweet what all happens in his story, but let me keep going. You know what? I don't want to tell the entire film. Let me just get to the things that really irked me, and which made me, looking back, I got some closure on something that I wasn't sure if I agreed with or appreciated at first, but, well, here goes. First things first. Black Widow. I am not really into super agent assassin movies, and so her character, I never really much cared for, her or Hawkeye. Kind of like Hawkeye a little bit, but it's a psychological thing, knowing Jeremy Renner's also out there playing Mission Impossible movies and stuff like that, and Bourne, whatever. I just never really got into her character or Nick Fury's. They were just kind of there, as far as I'm concerned. But everything changed in this movie. She was not able to move on after what Thanos did. And again, this is a major spoiler. I warned you already. If you haven't exited out of this video, it's on you, not me. I was genuinely aggravated thinking about this stuff after the fact, after we get out of the movie theater. Because something happens in this film which not only got under my skin, it genuinely disturbed me. Literally, the thought of it just came into my mind as I got home today from where I had been, thinking about the movie all of a sudden, and my mind went right to that scene, and I felt like I had witnessed something horrible. To the point it's like, why do I watch such a disturbing thing? Why do I watch such a disturbing movie? And I'm talking about her death scene. Because we did this mess last time in Infinity War. We saw this monster, Thanos, throw his adopted daughter, that was like the only thing he sort of cared about in the universe, off of that cliff to get the Soul Stone from floaty, ghost-like Red Skull. Well, not from him, but to get it after talking to him. And the scene in this film of Black Widow and Hawkeye talking to each other, realizing what has to be done, and their last few words of dialogue as they're saying, like, I'm going to do it, no, I'm going to do it, and you're not going to do it, and Hawkeye saying, you know what I've become, you know what I've been doing. Talking about becoming a killer, basically, and a vigilante, just indiscriminate, well, not indiscriminately, but tracking down, like he's judge, jury, and executioner, all these bad guys for revenge. Since he can't have Thanos, he's just been going after all the Earthling villains and killing them. And she says, and Black Widow says something like, but you also know what I was, and you helped me, you saved me, or something like that. Anyways, they kind of like hold hands for just a moment, and I'm thinking, I guess I have no idea what. It's such a tense moment in the movie. It's like there was a split second I thought he was going to grab her and throw her off the cliff, which is absolutely ridiculous. But he was just tackling her like a clothesline tackle to incapacitate her for a second so she wouldn't be able to stop him. And so he starts to run toward the cliff to throw himself off in order to get the soul stone so that they'll be able to retrieve it and go back to there 5 years ahead of time, and mission accomplished. But no, she gets up, springs forward, knocks him down, shoots him with some taser thing that incapacitates him. He gets it off just in time to shoot an explosive bow and arrow that blows her to the side so that he can then jump off the cliff. But then she cables him somehow. And again, all this stuff is within like 15 feet of the cliff. You're thinking this is not possible. But anyway, you end up with a literal cliffhanger with him holding on to some cable that she attached to him, and he's holding her, and she's slipping, and she's saying, "You gotta let me go, it's okay." It's like, no, it's like, and it lingers to the point, it's like, I'm crying in this theater, hoping nobody sees me, and then she falls, and they got this slow, dramatic, emotional music, and he's in anguish, hanging there like Batman, that Batman maneuver where you're suspended in air and you're holding onto the ledge, and Batman was supposed to be strong enough to lift the other person up to the cliff so they can grab on, but they pan down to her, and her head's cracked open. And you actually like see the blood around her red hair and stuff, and the music just keeps going and going until Hawkeye, he's just dying, and this emotional trauma, right? It was going to be him. It was going to be him. He would save his family by getting the soul stone. He would sacrifice, but no, he's vanished. He's wished away all of a sudden to this eerie little water spot on the planet wherever they were, and all of a sudden the soul stone is in his hand, and he just kind of like bows his head down and just utter silence, and then it just cuts away. The scene cuts away, and I'm just like, this is even worse to me than when Thanos threw Gamora, this person we've come to care about, this monster who has the vision of her at the end. Did you do it? What did it cost you? And he says, everything. How messed up is that? This movie, the way she died, it just, I can't explain really how I feel about it, because again, I have a hard time separating these things sometimes. It's like, again, I'm going to switch gears here. Captain Marvelous just had her own movie. Captain Nobody, who we don't know, and I for one, and a lot of other people don't really care about, because of her uppity, she literally says in this movie, yeah, but you didn't have me before, when you were fighting all these things. War Machine actually asked a good question, where were you this whole time when we needed you? And apparently she's been playing Guardian Angel on all these other hundreds of planets and solar systems, like she's some intervening god or something, and it's just so ridiculous and pompous that it got under my skin. Meanwhile, Black Widow, finally, it's like she's going to get her own movie now, but it'll have to be a prequel or some junk, unless they actually bring her back, which actually would be interesting, because the way she died, just like she's gone, and they revisit that a couple of times in the movie. She's gone. And again, I didn't really care a lot about her character until this movie. And seeing her do that, these two friends, like fellow warriors, Barton had, like, not killed her the way he was supposed to on a mission years earlier, and how they fought together and they were comrades and they had a friendship, and now they're fighting each other over who's gonna sacrifice themselves so that the other one won't have to. It just kind of like removed your heart. It's like ripped your heart out as you're watching this film. Again, maybe it wasn't that big a deal to a lot of other people, but there was just something about it, that whole sequence, that just, it really got me, and it really irritated me, it disturbed me. Not just, it wasn't like an inspirational thing, it was like this, something about this doesn't seem, well, maybe that's just it. I think I identified it earlier, and I just remember what I was thinking earlier about why it doesn't seem just to me. It's like this disproportionate thing in this movie. There you got Captain Marvelous, Captain Mannequin, who's basically invincible. Couldn't she have done something like that? No, it's the mortal earthling woman, the flesh woman, a soul for a soul. Why couldn't Captain Marvelous, Captain Mannequin, why couldn't she have held put on the Infinity Gauntlet at the very end of the movie and snapped her fingers? Couldn't she have withstand it? Because at the end, that's what they do. The Hulk, he decides is the only one, because of the unique radiation or whatever that the Infinity Gauntlet is putting off, gamma radiation, that he can withstand it. It kind of like burns up his arm, but he successfully brings things back into normal, or brings everybody back at the end of the movie. It doesn't happen right away. And because of the way they did the filming, that sequence, I was freaking out thinking not only did it not work, but that they were all dead. Because at the end of the movie, Thanos comes in his own ship, and all these missiles rain down on the facility where Tony Stark and them had built their time machine, and man, blows the place to smithereens. And I thought to myself, they're dead. And the way Ant-Man was knocked back like a rag doll, I thought, well, he's dead. And they're all crushed underneath all these missiles and the place blowing up and falling into the earth. No, they're invincible superheroes. They were all alive. And Rocket Raccoon, he lived too. But I said that because of this. Hulk snapped his fingers or whatever, brought it all back, but then there's Thanos from the past coming into the future through the time machine, or however that was, and then this huge epic, literally, I was thinking it's like the opening of the Lord of the Rings. where that's the way I was thinking about it today, where Avengers Endgame ends is where Lord of the Rings begins, because you remember how the narrator at the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring said, a final alliance of elves and men went to the bottom of Mount Doom, and you're thinking, to get the one ring, and that's basically what this is, except it's everybody. At first, it's Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America fighting Thanos, and they do a good job, in my opinion, of that fight scene. Captain America holds his own against Thanos, and is worthy. He is worthy, and there's this funny scene of Thor saying, "I knew it," as he's laughing when he realizes Captain America could pick up Thor's hammer. And he controls it like with his mind, and he's like hitting Thanos in the face with it and throwing his shield and alternating for like a minute and just kind of slapping Thanos around until Thanos gets the upper hand again and just ragdolls Captain America across the way. And Iron Man gets slapped around. It's really good stuff. It's a good fight scene. But then it comes to the part where Thanos says, "You showed me that it fails. You showed me what I must do. You showed me that I've learned now that the other half that is spared doesn't live on and flourish in thankfulness and tranquility and all this stuff. The happy ending he always imagined that would result from him genociding half of the universe didn't happen. It just caused all kind of horrible problems. He says, I guess I'll have to just destroy everything and just remake it all the way up. And so it's going to be even worse. This time he's just going to kill everybody once he gets his hand into that infinity gauntlet. And so then the stakes obviously are even higher. And it really is an endgame now that I think about it, in as much as they brought it about with all their time travel shenanigans. But there's this neat scene right at the end where Thanos, all of his armies and his spacecraft are landing, and there's like ground forces massing right there. The whole landscape is transformed into like a Mount Doom looking volcanic ash sky scenery. And there's Captain with his broken shield, and you're just thinking to himself, what is he going to say? Is he going to say, I can do this all day? But he's like unafraid, and he just slowly approaching him like, this is the fight. And he's just going to keep fighting him. When all of a sudden, Doctor Strange shows up, and he's opening portals, more portals than you can count. And everybody that's ever been in a Marvel movie, Black Panther, Spider-Man, the Guardians of the Galaxy, all these people are pouring through these portals. Wakandan armies are pouring through. Ant-Man breaks through the ground all in his giant form with Hulk and Hawkeye and everybody in his hand, and then he starts squashing people, and they charge, and you finally hear Captain America say, Avengers, assemble, and then they charge, and there's the epic CGI battle that unfortunately me and my family were sitting so close. We saw the movie nice, except that when you're that close, all these flashes of CGI madness, you can't really tell what's going on when you're sitting as close as we were. But it is what it is. I got the point. But it all ends with all this epic fighting, right? And then there's Iron Man looking across the way at Doctor Strange, who has been doing not much except holding out back the water with his magic, with his wizardry or whatever. And that's been his job, keeping the whole place from... Then again, maybe he should have just let all that water drown all the bad guys or something. But all of Thanos' army, all of his people who died, his servants, his bodyguards, his close confidants, and his lieutenant guy, whatever. I can't remember anybody's names. Are back. And there's Tony Stark looking across the way to Doctor Strange with his little finger held up, one, as in the like 14 million possibilities and only one in which they win. The thing he told him in Infinity War. And all of a sudden, and this is after, here comes Captain Marvelous again. All of a sudden, Thanos' ship stopped shooting at the ground because he had commanded all of the guns to shoot at the field, even when this guy's saying, sir, we'll hit our own troops. And he's like, do it, just do it. Because the Scarlet Witch was tearing him up, making him lose his mind and lose his clothes and being sent up to the sky. And like, she had him going. And you're like, wow, she's going to take care of Thanos. But then she gets knocked down with all of the lasers hitting the ground and stuff, and then all of a sudden they're shooting off into space, and everybody's like, what is that? What are they responding to? What is it shooting at? And here comes Captain Marvelous. Here she comes to save the day. She punches holes through his spaceship, blows it up, and it falls in pieces to the ground, and you're thinking, if you can punch holes through this spaceship like that, like apparently she did to spaceships in her stinking movie, which I didn't watch, can she not punch holes through Thanos? She goes and she fights him. He headbutts her, and it has no effect on her. And you're thinking, wow, that was impressive. And this also is after this scene of the girl power junk where there's Gwyneth Paltrow in an Iron Man suit, which was cool. But literally, like, every female character, except, of course, Black Widow, who has died. And they do the slow pan thing, and there's the Wasp in her normal size, and all this, the Wakandan warriors, and who else? There's Scarlet Witch. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. But anyway, the way they do that, you're thinking, man, there's a bunch of them. I didn't realize. You're like, they really do have them all in that scene. And it's all about them getting the Infinity Gauntlet across the field. And you're thinking to yourself, I'm thinking now, like, where were they taking it? Where were they taking the Infinity Gauntlet? Were they just trying to keep it away from Thanos? Anyway, this is the ending. Iron Man looking across the way to Doctor Strange with this look of understanding, like he realizes the one way that they could win. He wrestles with Thanos. Thanos thinks he has the stones. He snaps his finger. Nope, nothing happened, and you're realizing he's been had. Tony Stark had made a glove of his own and had the Infinity Stones in it, realizing that if the Hulk had almost been fried up by trying to use the Infinity Stones, he was going to die. Tony Stark would die if he used it. And there's Thanos with his thinking he had won and that he had the stones. He snaps his fingers, I am inevitable. And then there's Iron Man. There's Tony Stark. Yeah, well, I am Iron Man. And he snaps his fingers. And reflecting back on it now, I realize I heard online that Robert Downey Jr. didn't want to say this line. I don't know why, because at that moment, it wasn't really, in my mind, my way of thinking about it, the way I view this film and this story, and his arc, and his story, and how far he had come, I realized it wasn't like in the first movie where he says, the truth is, I am Iron Man. It wasn't about the iron at that point. It wasn't about his know-how or his suits, his flying, or his knowledge, his Iron Man suit. No, it was about him. That adamant will. I am Iron Man. It's like he's not getting past him. He's not going to let him erase his friends again. He's not going to let Thanos erase his wife and his little daughter. He snaps his fingers, and so Thanos and all of his guys start disappearing, and it's really great. I was thinking about it afterwards, like, what is he going to say? What is he going to say? What is Thanos going to say? But that's the thing. He kind of slumps down, this perplexed, beaten, confused, disappointed expression. And he doesn't say anything. The eloquent monster is speechless as he just fades away like they all do. And I thought that was the way to do that. Anyways, so there's Tony Stark, the radiation or whatever, the Infinity Gauntlet's killing him. He can't say anything, which is so well done in my opinion. The death scene. I don't want heroes to die ever, and so I'm thinking to myself, this is really happening. He's gonna die. I wish Captain America had been able to say something to him, but it was Brody and Spider-Man, who they had this like emotional reunion when he first came through the portal, saying, "Oh, Mr. Stark, you won't believe what's happened. Doctor Strange, he's had us for 5 years, and he said it's time to go. We have to go." But Tony Stark like gave him a hug, like so relieved that he is alive. he hugs him and he says, "Oh, well, this is nice." He's a pretty good Peter Parker. I like the guy. I can't think of his name. Tom something or other. But I haven't watched any of the films because I only really like him in these films and not the actual Spider-Man movies because I'm just not on board with the SJW girlfriend propaganda movies. Anyways, I doubt I'll see Spider-Man Far From Home since I didn't see Spider-Man Homecoming. I can skip this stuff the same way I skipped Venom and some other movies, but the ending is so bittersweet looking back. Because one thing about it, heroes do die. Maximoff died. Black Widow's died. And now Tony's died. And the thing is, there's Peter Parker saying, is he crying, we won, Mr. Stark, we won. And they kind of console him and get him to the side as Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts, his wife, saying, we're going to be okay, realizing he can't say anything, he's almost gone. And she says, you can rest now, and you understand, he gave it all. And the whole time I've been watching these movies, I've always thought back to that argument that he and Captain America had, that tense argument in that first Avengers movie where the captain said, you may not be a threat, but you need to stop pretending to be a hero. You're not the kind of guy to make the sacrifice play. And these challenges that they made to each other, even though Tony Stark did at the end of that movie, sending himself through the portal and nuking the aliens, the Chikari or whatever in outer space, like he had proved himself. Then, even though he struggled along the way, here he is, he's given everything, right? And he made this hologram, this really neat hologram pre-recorded message in case something bad would happen. And this really touching part where he says to his daughter, I love you 3,000, this thing that she made up saying I love you 3,000 earlier in the movie. He had gotten this life. He was able to move on. He didn't want to lose it. And it's just, like I said, it's bittersweet because I hate seeing heroes die. But the thing is that I struggle with, is what Captain America does. They have to go back and put the stones back in time. And so he goes and does that, but they try to bring him back immediately, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. For him it'll be 10 seconds or whatever. For us it'll be 10 seconds. But for Captain America, that's what the Hulk says. When he and Bucky and Falcon are sending Cap back, he said he wanted to go alone. It's like he had it planned. He wasn't going to come back. And all of a sudden they see this old man on the bench near them, and Falcon goes over. And it's a really aged, really old Captain America. And he, gives Falcon his shield and says, you're it now. And she's like, he sees that what he's done, he just stayed in that past life and, lived his life. And it's really, really neat in a way, but at the same time, at first, I'm gonna go ahead and give him my thoughts. What I had at first, I'm like, really, are you kidding me? Tony's died, but you kind of have this happy ending. But then I thought about it, and I was thinking, you know what? Tony had lived. He had done his playboy, philanthropist, wild living, and then he grew as a person until he had fulfilled all those things that he always wanted to grow into: a wife, a child, and sacrifice. And the captain had just continued on and on. He says, I decided I needed to go and find some of that life that Tony was talking about getting, that I needed to get. But I can't even recall where he said that in the movie. I remember it being Black Widow who said, we both need to get a life, or he said that to her when he was trying to help cheer her up and get her motivated to not focus so much about Barton out there doing whatever he's decided to do, tracking down the scum of the earth in revenge of his family, to avenge his family. But anyway, that's how the film ends. A flashback to 1940s America, where he's actually gotten back with Agent Peggy, I can't remember her name, from the original Captain America, and I think she's been in some of the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff, but I've never watched the TV show. I just not into the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff a whole lot. And I was thinking to myself, it's so irksome and I can't help it. I cannot help it. This trip down memory lane movie, that's how we ended this, and it's like, well, it's done. This story's completed, and people are happy enough with it, so it's alright, I guess, for a popcorn, cheesy, fictional, fun time at the movies story. It's just all these moments where he longed for her, Peggy. How the sad ending of the first film, I had a date. It seems like half a dozen times. And then when she passed away as an elderly woman in, was it Civil War? Yeah, Civil War. Yep. It's like so many moments now are like, I don't know, the time travel stuff. They literally go back, when they split up into teams earlier, to the ending of Avengers, the first movie. And there's all these shenanigans with Loki and the Tesseract and stuff. And War Machine and Nebula go back to get Star-Lord's Indiana Jones Infinity Stone from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. Literally got him singing to Redbone, hey now, come and get your love, come and get your love, come and get your love now. And all him dancing around with the little aliens he's kicking around, little rat aliens, and singing right into their little heads. And there's War Machine, and I'm going to get to the final two complaints right now. He says to Nebula about Star-Lord as they watch him over in the shadows, as they watch him dancing around to the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's basically an idiot. And there's Nebula with this downtrodden, yes, he's an idiot. They ruined Star-Lord in these two movies, to the point where I wish maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy hadn't even been in these movies. I like Peter Quill, especially in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. People say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was a kind of a step down, but the truth is, I like that film. I like the importance of Father's message it sent at the end, and I was in tears when Yondu died. But the idiot move they have him making when he became so emotional, realizing what happened to Gamora in Infinity War, costing them their chance, Iron Man and Nebula and Drax and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and getting the gauntlet away from Thanos, how he kind of blew it for him. And then he's one of the ones who goes poof at the end. And then this film, all the 2 lines of dialogue that he has, one line includes gasping in pain when the past Gamora kicks him in the crotch, and so there he is in pain, and she's looking to Nebula, who had convinced her to join her in the good side. Nebula, who had killed her past self, and you're wondering, isn't this going to mess the timeline up in some kind of awful way? she's looking down at him and thinking, she asks, this is the guy, seriously, that she falls in love with or whatever? And Nebula's like, it was either him or a tree. And there's Quill on the ground like, what? It's like they made him into a total joke. He's so relieved, so happy to see her. Like reaching out for her. Bam! Right to the gonads. Down he goes. And you're thinking, this is a joke. This is horrible. And you can't help but think, the continuity errors, different directors, different writers for each film, how it's not all done by one crew. There's different people in charge and what they decide to do with these characters in each film and how it affects to the detriment of the story. Because as bad as they treated Quill in this film and Infinity War also, the most insulting one of all is what they did to Thor. I mean, they make Thor out to be, I can't even describe it. He's this fat, drunk loser now all of a sudden. In the beginning, they are able to triangulate where Thanos is by this energy signature or whatever on a planet, saying it happened the day he snapped his fingers and it happened again a couple of days ago. And they're able to get there. And there he is all dawdling around. Space woman, Captain Marvel, when she goes on recon to scope out the planet as they're outside the planet's atmosphere in their spaceship, she says, there's nothing down there. There's no armies, there's no defenses. It's just him. All eerie, and you're thinking to yourself, what in the world is this? Literally, it's nothing. It's just him and his Thanos and his happily ever after over the sunset garden, picking stuff and putting it into a bag, looking like a literal troll out of Lord of the Rings. Going into his little hut, he's going to make some stew or something. When all of a sudden he gets blown back, and she's got him around the neck, Captain Marvelous does, and he says that he destroyed the stones. And they're all like, no, we gotta strip the place. War Machine, Brody's like, we gotta strip this place down. He's gotta have it hidden around here somewhere. And whoever it was could sense that they were really gone. And I'm thinking to myself, these stones in this universe were supposed to be like the original elements of existence or whatever. If you literally destroyed them, wouldn't that kind of do something to the universe? Or am I just a little bit thinking too much, or what? But something unexpected happens as he's talking to Nebula, saying, oh, daughter, perhaps I was too harsh on you all those years. He's only transformed her into a cyborg. Yeah, that's rather harsh. He's mid-sentence when Thor chops his head off. And you're kind of shocked, kind of being the operative word, because somebody's like, what have you done? And Thor's like, looking like he's in a half daze, like he's almost surprised himself at what he just did, because he chopped Thanos' head off, dead at the door now, with Stormforge axe. He says, I went for the head. And he kind of like drifts out the door like a zombie, and they're all at a loss as to what do you do? What do you do now? He's destroyed them. He's destroyed the stones because they served their purpose, and there was nothing left to him but, as Thanos said, but temptation to do something else with him or something. And you're just thinking, oh man. But yeah, the convoluted time travel stuff really just, because they have a mess up in their mission in the 2012 Infinity Stone and whatever else that thing is, the Tesseract. Because Hulk couldn't fit into the elevator. He gets all the way down the stairs after the Iron Man mockingly says, maximum occupancy guy, take the stairs. And he can't go back into Mark Ruffalo size. And so he goes down the stairs, and when he opens the door, pure coincidence, he knocks the Infinity Stone out of somebody's hand. And Captain America ends up wrestling with past Captain America. And Loki, or whatever. That right there could make for... You know what? Maybe they could bring Loki back into the movies by whatever he did, unless I missed something. But then there's Captain America in an elevator again. You're thinking, what is he going to do? Whip all these guys' butts like he did in Captain America Winter Soldier? Which was a really good movie. But I'll tell you what, something they did that I did appreciate, I really liked. I hated this stupid junk about how Captain America is supposed to be a secret Hydra agent. Like he's a traitor all along. He's not really true blue American hero stuff. No, he's actually one of them. Well, he knows they're Hydra. Even though, as they're making this good joke, Ant-Man even says, really? As Iron Man's talking into the radio, yeah, we didn't know they were Hydra at this time. As they're watching them case up and contain the Infinity Stones and the Tesseract and stuff after the events of... After they've apprehended Loki and stuff, and it's literally like... oh, man, it's like bonus footage from Avengers, the first movie you're watching. It kind of aggravates me. Anyways, there's Ant-Man saying, really? They even look like bad guys. And so it's another cutesy-poo funny moment. And there's really too much of that in this movie. The really tense stuff was with Thanos, because he is a menacing freak. I give him that. They did a good job of him. He really is a monster. And all the stuff with Nebula's like, oh great, is he going to execute his daughter when he realizes that when he's scoping out her memories, when he's apprehended her in the movie, and he finds out ahead of time that someone's messing with time, and he realizes that they're trying to go back and correct. They're trying to change the past from what I do in the future, realizing that he does actually succeed, and he actually sees himself get his head cut off. So yeah, I guess some actually pretty good stuff in this movie. But I tell you what, when Captain America's in that elevator, and this is what I was trying to say a minute ago, when he whispers into this, he's trying to tell him, I'm going to be taking the Tesseract, or whichever it was, the Infinity Stone. And they're like, sorry, you're not authorized. I have to make a call. And he's like, oh no, it's all right, trust me. And he leans in and tells the guy, Hail Hydra. And you're like, they hand it right over then. And he has this weird little, as soon as he turns his back on him and he's got the case, walking out scot-free, cool as a cucumber. He's got this weird little smile on his face, and it's so great. I'm so glad they picked on. I'm glad they knocked that stupid storyline, whatever comic book that was in, that made him out to be a sleeper cell for Hydra or whatever garbage. Hate stuff like that, especially when they pick on Captain America. But yeah, the ending of the film with him dancing with Agent Peggy. I hope I'm getting her name right, Peggy. I liked her from that original film. It was a good movie. It's just... Well, I can't think about it for too much because, like I said, I know these films are just empty popcorn fun at the end of the day. I just can't help but wish that one day in the not-too-distant future there'll be a film made that makes $1 billion and has global popularity that actually sticks to its own rules and imparts meaningful lessons at the same time and is enjoyed by people of every stripe and age. It's just, well, I've gone on for long enough. Yeah. If I've forgotten anything, oh well, because I can't go on any longer. Quick recap, I absolutely hate what they did with Thor and with Quill. Hopefully if they make a Guardians of the Galaxy 3, there's another joke, yeah, at the end, with Thor going along with, after he kind of abdicates his throne to Valkyrie, he says, the Asgardians of the galaxy packed together again, like in Infinity War. And him picking with Quill about who's the boss and who's the captain of the ship. It's Quill's ship. All these other people are basically just his friends / crew. But they're genuinely, I couldn't help but laugh a little bit. It was chuckle worthy. I laughed with Thor saying, you're in charge, of course you are. And almost like a whisper, because the way the camera is angled, there's Quill with like furrowed brows, like, what is he getting at? As Thor says, you're in charge, of course you are. It's like, of course you are. It's funny junk, but I haven't really been enthused about Marvel movies, because so many of them have been pretty much the same movie every time, with some distinct differences, like in this film, because it's the ending. It's the end of an era. No more Iron Man, no more Captain America, no more of these guys, which I guess they did a good job of endearing these characters to the people, and as much as I guess I will miss them. But at the same time, it's like Iron Man said in that movie, the end is part of the story. And since Thor is still out there, and they usually do trilogies, I hope they make a Guardians movie where these characters are redeemed, because Thor is made out to be a guy in this film with his beer gut and his gamer rage. I kid you not. He gets on to some kid who called the stone guy from Thor Ragnarok a bad name. If you don't unlock from this game right now, I'm going to track you down, tear your arms off, and shove them up your butt. You're thinking he's raging out on some little kid playing a game. This is a joke. They made him out to be a guy who hasn't actually learned anything, even after he did learn things in Ragnarok, as cheery and as much laughter as they try to put into that movie, trying to turn it into a comedy in a movie where so many people are killed. I don't like that. But the whole thing with his dad, you're not Thor, the god of hammers, are you? You're Thor, the god of thunder. Even when you had both eyes, you could only see half the story. And it's all this Mufasa and Simba stuff. You are more than what you have become. Remember who you are. And so he beat his stepsister, the goddess of death, at the end of that movie. And then in Infinity War, they made him he was like a bad guy. He's tough. He tried to split Thanos after Loki was killed and all this stuff. Tracking him down, Stormforge, the new axe, saving the day at the end, frying the people who were attacking Wakanda and all this stuff. And then in this movie, he's a totally different person. Literally a different person. Emotionally unstable, drinking. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. I hate what they did to him. Hopefully they'll redeem him in another movie. And let me just stop, folks. I've gone on long enough with this junk. Thank you so much for listening to me, especially if you listened all the way to the end. Take care. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks.